Lesson 14 is about evaluation of expressions. Now in the previous lessons we've been working with operations and order of operations, and basically that's been preparation for this particular lesson. For example, now you should be able to figure out pretty quickly what that value is equal to in that operation. You should be able to simplify that expression. And so you would just say, well, 3 times 7 is equal to 21. Now, what if we replaced those numbers, the 3, the 2, and the 5, what if we replaced those with letters or variables? For example, what if we had A times B plus C? And then we said that A is equal to 3, B is equal to 2, and C is equal to 5. And I asked you to evaluate that expression. Evaluate A times B plus C if A was 3, B is 2, C is 5. Would you be able to realize that that's the same thing as over on the left that you just did? Except now all you have to do, the difference is that you will take that 3 that A is equal to and you'll substitute it in right there. You'll take the 2 that B is equal to, substitute it in right there. Take the 5 that C is equal to and substitute it in right there. It'll be the same type of mathematical process. The only difference is first you have to substitute the numbers in to the appropriate space where the letter is. Then you do your operations. Do them in the correct order like you've been learning. You do the inside parentheses first, then you do multiplication, then addition. The difference, and it's a pretty big difference and it can be kind of confusing sometimes, but just try to keep it simple. All you're doing is, as a first step now, you substitute numbers in where the letters go. So basically now you have to be even more organized than you were in previous problems where you just had expressions that already had the numbers in place. Now you've got to substitute the numbers in where the letters go. Let's go ahead and do some practice problems. Look at practice problem A. I want you to evaluate or find the value of A plus AB. Now just think about what that means, that AB part. There's no plus or minus sign in between those letters, and so that means whatever numbers you substitute in for those letters, you'll be doing multiplication there. So you're really saying A plus A times B. So let's go ahead and substitute our numbers in. We've been given that A is equal to 2, and so we'll have 2 plus 2, and then B is equal to negative 3. And so put that in parentheses because it's a multiplication there, 2 times negative 3. So we've substituted our numbers in for our letters, and notice how I've written them right above the expression. And that, again, that helps me stay organized. I know where I put the numbers and if I put them in the right place. So now we can go ahead and do our operation. Do multiplication first, then addition. So we say 2 plus a negative 6. And then all we have is algebraic addition left, and that would equal a negative 4. So some things to remember here. Anytime you see a problem where it says evaluate, that means they want you to find the value, find a numerical value for it. They'll give you an expression that's just a bunch of letters. You have to substitute the numbers that they gave you into the appropriate places and then do the expression, do the operations that are required to get the answer. Let's do another one. This time I won't write the words evaluate up there. I'll just assume that you know that you're supposed to substitute the numbers in for the appropriate spots in that expression. So we have an expression x minus xy plus x. We've been given that x equals negative 2 and y equals negative 3. So let's go ahead and start substituting the numbers in to the appropriate places. And we'll do this right underneath the expression that we have. And x is negative 2, so I'll put a negative 2 here, then the minus sign, then the parentheses, and then negative 2 again, times y. So we put parentheses negative 3. And I put those parentheses around the negative 3 so that I remember that I'm doing multiplication there. xy, that means x times y. And then plus x, that would be negative 2 again. And I put that in parentheses too, just to distinguish its minus sign from the plus in front of it. And then the last parentheses there. So now I can go ahead and start to simplify. I do the innermost sets of parentheses first. So I have minus 2 minus parentheses. Negative 2 times negative 3 would be a positive 6. And then plus a negative 2 or just minus 2. Now I finish off inside the parentheses. So that would be a 4 inside the parentheses. And now I have minus 2 and a negative 4. That would be a negative 6 for an answer. So once we get the numbers substituted in the right place, it's just a matter of doing the operations like we've done them in the previous lessons. The new thing is that we start out with an expression that just contains variables. And variables, those are just the letters, the x and the y. We call them variables because the number that we put in there can vary. We could have said that x equals 10 or x equals 5 or x equals 1, but we chose for this particular problem to say x equals negative 2. Let's do another one. This one has 3 variables instead of 2. Just follow the same steps though. Go ahead and start substituting the numbers into the appropriate positions and then evaluate the expression. So first we have an x and we see that x is negative 1, so we write negative 1, then minus. We see that y is a positive 4, so we can just put 4 there, times z. And so z is negative 3, so we put parentheses negative 3. We don't just want to put 4 minus 3. We need to enclose that negative 3 in parentheses so that we know multiplication is being done there. Then we have another parentheses, x again, plus z, and so that would be plus a negative 3. Okay, so let's continue this. Work the innermost parentheses first, and so we'll have minus 1 and minus 4 times negative 3. And then let's go ahead and work this set of parentheses. Minus 1 plus a minus 3 is a minus 4. And now let's continue to simplify. We just have multiplication and addition left, so we'll do minus 4 times minus 3 is a positive 12 times a negative 4. And so I'm probably going to run out of room on the bottom, so I'm just going to move over to the right here. I'll have minus 1 minus 48 is equal to minus or negative 49. Let's do one more. Negative ABA plus C times A plus B. We want to evaluate that when A is negative 1, B is negative 3, C is equal to negative 2. So let's go ahead and substitute our numbers in where the appropriate letter is. And so first we'll have negative, and then we have A is negative 1, so we need to put that in parentheses because that's going to be a multiplication there of that first negative times negative 1. B is negative 3, so put that in parentheses, and then times A again, negative 1, plus C is negative 2, and I'm going to write this over here to the left because I'm running out of room. Negative 2 times A is negative 1, and then plus B, which is negative 3, so plus a negative 3. Okay, so now let's go ahead and work our parentheses. Now that first part of that problem, the ABA part, we can kind of see that's a pretty simple thing to multiply, and also we see that there are 4 negative signs, and so that will be a positive result when we do that multiplication. And so really we just have 1 times 3 times 1, so that's equal to 3. And so we'll just go ahead and do that now. Then have the negative 2, and then inside parentheses we have negative 1 plus negative 3, so that'll be a negative 4. And let's complete that multiplication step. 3 and then 2 times negative 4 is a negative 8. And then with that negative out front, it'll actually be positive 8. And then we'll just get 11 for an answer. Now, as always, if you get confused on these, one thing you could have done is you could have grouped this part together, put a plus sign there, so you would see that you had 3 plus negative 2 times negative 4. Whatever you need to do to keep up with your negative signs on these problems, that's usually where you're going to make a mistake. Either that, or sometimes you substitute a number in for the wrong letter. That's why it helps to write the expression out on your paper first, then substitute the numbers in right beneath it so that you know you're putting them in the right position. Okay, well that's all for lesson 14.